If this is the first time you're joining a live action webinar, I want to make a quick introduction to live action's network performance management solutions. Our solution enables network teams to achieve both operational and performance excellence, obviously in order to support the success of the business. With live action, network management teams are able to improve application performance, they're able to accelerate their troubleshooting activities, they're able to manage the network so that it is ready to adapt for new situations. Network management teams are able to deliver major IT initiatives by using a data-driven approach and understanding how that IT rollout is impacting the network, and ultimately perform some advanced reporting and analysis so that they have a better understanding of what truly is happening in their network. So I'm going to close the poll. Thank you everyone for responding to that. Let's see. Okay. So I want to introduce our panelists for today. On our panel, we have a couple of members from Live Action Sales Engineer team and the latest member of the Live Action team as well. These are the people that are working hand in hand with customers every day to resolve their toughest network issues. We're going to hear from Mike O'Shea, who heads the sales engineering team, and Keith Parsons, who is a senior sales engineer here at Live Action. I've also invited to this presentation Monique Lucy, who is our recent addition as a Director of Product Marketing, to join this conversation. I want to welcome everyone and thank you for being with us today. Mike, Keith, Monique, if you can in that order, introduce yourselves, give us a little bit of your background and your perspective on the network. Mike.
Hey, good afternoon, Chris. Thanks for allowing me to join here. My name is Mike O'Shea. I'm based in RTP, North Carolina. And my background has kind of taken me through both the customer and the vendor side, from small business to large business and large enterprise. It also includes managing networks and you know, from a config T level to network management and also selling these networks. So it's been quite a cycle. But with COVID and the challenges that we have today are not like any other. It's not like any other time that I've seen it since my early days of 1991 when I started this venture. But during that time, I worked with the Pepsi-Cola network up in New York, in Somers, New York, for about 5 years, and followed that with KPMG Consulting, touching some of the largest customers, one of them being the New York City Board of Education with the rollout way back when. So from there, I spent 15 years over at Cisco here in RTP, and then about 4 years at Palo Alto Networks, and finally rejoined my old boss from Cisco, who ran U.S. Enterprise, here at Live Action. So it's been great to see, you know, the challenges and the changes in time. But again, COVID, cloud, working from home, and the pressures to stay alive with the supply chain, paying your workers, and also focus on the fundamentals of the network. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges and changes that I've seen is, you know, we can't just jump onto the net new project. Everyone likes to do that and you know, implement new technologies and take on new things. That's great. But these days, there's a huge focus on either security, collaboration, or network visibility. We do play in one of those pillars, obviously, but that focus and making sure that network is operating at a very high and efficient level, that's what I see most customers are doing right now. So, Chris, thanks, and good to be with all of you.
All right, Keith.
Hi, I'm Keith. All right. Hi, I'm Keith Parsons. I'm a senior sales engineer with Live Action. I've been with the company for 11 years since our inception as a DoD contractor. Before that, I've worked for various other vendors developing NetFlow and protocol analysis tools. I've been doing this since 1978, protocol analysis and monitoring, so over 40 years. And I look forward to showing you what we can do with application performance today.
Thanks, Keith. And Monique?
Hi, I'm Monique Lucy. I am, as Chris mentioned, the newest member of the Live Action team with just 4 days under my belt at this point, and I am based out of, just outside of Boston, Massachusetts. I've spent most of my career in tech marketing, most recently in product marketing at Hitachi Vantara, where I was responsible for marketing their converged infrastructure solutions, including their automated management and orchestration software. And prior to that, I spent a number of years in solutions marketing at HPE and 3Com, marketing their networking switches and management software to higher education, state, local, and federal government, and financial services companies. And I have to say that I'm really excited to be back in networking again.
Terrific. Thank you, everyone. So before we dive into the primary topic of today's webinar about application performance and troubleshooting that performance, I want to highlight some of the context and macro trends that are impacting network operations teams. And halfway through my slide, I'm going to pop up the survey results so we can see how members of today's audience relate to some of this perspective. So one overarching theme in the network continues to be the increase in complexity. Right, more and more businesses are adopting a multi-cloud strategy. SD-WAN is becoming virtually pervasive, and adoption is continuing to increase. Both factors are only increasing the challenge that network teams have to operate and ultimately support the network. So I'm going to bring up the poll results, and you can see how our audience also is struggling with maintaining the status quo of the network. Now, in this survey data from Cisco's 2020 Global Network Trends Report, right, 73% of network teams are just struggling just to keep pace with the network that they have now versus implementing new technologies or new infrastructures. So, hopefully this gives you a little bit of a backdrop to, the challenge teams face when they also have to think about application performance, right, and how the infrastructure, the network infrastructure impacts that application performance. So I'm going to close this poll 1 second here. Sorry, it's popping up an interface there that I got to take care of. Okay. So now within that context of growing network complexity, and on top of that, we have the current conditions that are imposed by COVID-19, right? The whole work from home, the shift in network traffic to include, more traffic going from the home user to possibly cloud versus the on-prem infrastructure. And today's economy is also driving more technology-driven and digital experiences for customers. Right? The slowdown or the absence of those in-person transactions is certainly being, partially driven by COVID-19, but it was already starting to happen. And now it's critically important for network teams to ensure that the network is optimized in order to support and the performance of these applications that are helping these businesses transact digitally or conduct business digitally, right? So in this environment, application performance can make or break the enterprise. Poor network performance can slow down or knock out critical business processes, right? So payment and transaction processes can be impacted. If your organization delivers a digital service to your customers, the responsiveness of that application can be impacted by delays in the network. Collaboration tools, right? Today we're on a video and voice collaboration tool, but even within your coworkers, you're also utilizing those tools. Those can also be impacted by the performance of the network. And this is the reason why the network team plays a critical role in application performance for the organization. So I want to open this up to our panel today, right, from Mike, Keith, and Monique. As you've been working with customers in the field, what are some of the applications and some of the business functions that you see being impacted by the network, whether it's a configuration issue, whether it's something to do with the service provider, or what have you? What are you seeing out there in the field that businesses are struggling with, especially from what types of applications and what types of business functions are being impacted by that network performance. Mike?
Hey, Chris. Yeah, I mean, this kind of ranges between the different verticals that are out there, but I'll give you a few examples, and one more so than anything else. It's about orders, order processing. That is key to these businesses staying alive. But those orders, if they're kind of half-baked connections or they don't complete properly, and the result of that is not only a lack of sales, but it's also the user experience, the customer user experience. So I see that quite often, and making sure that orders can be placed and processed and accounted for and acknowledged. Those are really key variables. And I think a lot of the times right now, and again, not just because of COVID, but certainly any order processing is key to what we see. So that the applications and those connections that terminate properly and successfully, and whether that's seen through a web code or not, that is really important. So I see that most often in so many of the retail organizations. But you know, there's also applications that we're looking at with our traders and the financial institutions. So you know, whether it's a TITCO type application or otherwise, the sustainability of those flows in the network and making sure everything is performing. So it's going back to that user experience, not necessarily, you know, an external user experience in this case, but those internal users for the network is critical. So it really just depends on the different markets, and some different verticals rather, but some are you know, higher than and some are lower, only because look at the impact of COVID and on travel and on sales that are happening for businesses throughout the world. So it really just depends on the vertical, I'd say. So Keith?
I kind of agree with Mike. I do see some overlying issues. Of course, with the move home, with applications such as email and voice and video applications have really taken a priority. A lot of people are working at home with Citrix-based applications and others that we have certainly had some challenging issues with as well. And monitoring through the VPN, they even see the application performance, which is something that we do very well. But it is the slow business processes that have been forefront with most of my customers as well, to try to get performance to the level they had when their customers were working in the office, so to speak.
And Monique, I know you've got a slightly different perspective, right, from the external looking in. What do you sense, or what have you seen or heard about application performance affecting the business?
Well, I think, you know, Chris, one of the biggest challenges that we're seeing is that as network performance improves on a global basis, users are even more hypersensitive to even the smallest latencies. So a great example of that is Amazon, you know, particularly with the increased, you know, the exponential increase in order transactions due to COVID. Every 100 millisecond increase in the load time of its website actually decreases their total sales by 1%, which is significant when you look at the volume of transactions that they handle. Mike or Keith, could you, either of you, shed a little bit more light on some of the things that might impact the latency of an application?
Yeah, there's an awful lot of things, you know, parts that you can look at that conversation, and using, whether it's using our technology like a live wire or using Cisco's technology like the advanced flow records like an ABC. If you look at a conversation from the start to the finish, from the client to the actual server and back, and you cut that conversation into multiple parts, from, you know, in terms of delay or retransmissions, you can look at the client delay, the server delay, the network delay, the total delay. Those parts of the conversation can be impacted, and I think in many cases You just have to identify the right part or the right spot. It might be total delay, or in terms of the network as a whole. But if you can pinpoint that faster, it saves time. And Monique, you mentioned the Amazon example. If you can save time and pinpoint things faster and fix things faster, then you're not going to have that 100 millisecond delay continue. So that's a big thing. One other thing I like to just share is, with the network and with the applications, I think over the last 20 years we've been talking about it's not the plumbing, it's not the hardware, it's not the routers and the switches and the firewalls and all of that, the speeds and feeds. It's about the business at hand. It's your business. And, I think all network vendors are there to support your business, whatever that business might be. It could be, a hotel chain. It could be Amazon. It could be, the airlines. Whatever it is, it's about your business. And so the network has always been a second fiddle only, for anyone outside of IT. But I think today, due to COVID, the recognition that the network is instrumental to the success or critical to the success of the entire company, I think the network is getting some prioritization, a little bit more, I guess, but still the fundamentals of the business are a number one. But that network and the performance of that network and the visibility of the network has certainly increased by everyone out there, not just IT people. So from the CEO down, recognizing that the network is the lifeblood of the network for employment, for sales, for future growth, now it's absolutely critical. So poor performance, poor service, poor delivery, failed transactions, and slow processes are not going to win the day. And that's where a lot of this focus is these days.
And Keith, did you have anything to add to that?
Well, I just want to add that it seems like over the last couple of months there's been more of an emphasis on the network and monitoring and providing information about performance of the applications, the users, what are they doing, where are they going, how are the applications performing in situations that are now different from when they were, working at their company to working at home. So from our standpoint, we have seen a big increase in customers that have kind of neglected monitoring the network or being able to look at application performance or voice or video as well. And now we see a big interest going to be able to monitor and also monitor that extra mile. Even VPN monitoring is possible. So being able to see that we can analyze traffic in an end-to-end basis is now coming to the forefront more than ever to determine where is that latency and is it an application, a client server, or the network.
Terrific. So that lends itself well to our next topic, right? I want to get into why network operations teams are struggling to focus on application performance, right? For many enterprises, obviously, application performance optimization drives their network monitoring strategy. But these organizations are hampered by it's basically a cycle of inefficiency into how they conduct their network management. So, you can't do this successfully if you just have pockets of visibility into the applications. You also have to consider the other IT operations teams as you're working with your colleagues in order to solve these issues. And you have to adopt this cross-silo operations as a best practice. And ultimately, the network team needs to resolve these issues quickly and effectively. So again, I want to open this up to the team and ask you, what type of inefficiencies or things you've seen in terms of how a network management team goes about its job that create these inefficiencies or create these inabilities to focus on application performance or even solve application performance issues. So Mike?
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of things that are connected with this. And let me just start with saying, troubleshooting across a network, whether that's in the cloud or on-premise or both, And in these days, most of the customers are having a hybrid network. I think the time that it takes to troubleshoot the network is very challenging. And being able to identify where or who to escalate this to, whether it's an application developer or if it's a network people or someone else, I think that the time that it takes to go identify these network issues is another part of that that just increases the delay. So those two, along with just visibility, it surprises me that you can go invest in these networks, and let's face it, networking equipment, whether it's from any vendor, it's expensive, right? And the resources to manage these networks are expensive as well. But when you implement a new network, and whether that's a data center or voice and video or security or whatever the infrastructure might be, if you don't add that visibility to that network as part of that cycle overall, across all the different fabrics or the domains that you're working in, it just is going to increase that delay, and it's going to make it more painful, and it also brings on a lack of confidence by the engineers who are managing that network. So, I think always, especially now, is hey, let's do more with less. Next year we're going to have more projects, and we're going to have less people or the same amount of people, and we have to do 10 times as much. I mean, you hear that story all the time. But without the visibility, without the ability to identify problems, and when you spend too much time troubleshooting, it just leads to poor end-to-end performance, poor end-to-end monitoring. And I think in today's discussion, we'll talk about the network monitoring and application performance monitoring, not at the level of like a component or application discovery or dependent mapping type problem, but in terms of the network. How do you identify the problems faster to either fix the problem or talk to the right person to fix the problem? I see that on nearly every single call. And it's about the visibility and the fact that they just, they have some things, or they have 19 things, and they don't know which one to use at the right time. A lot of it is about tool consolidation because, it's costly. Licensing is costly, and they have too many that do, that do a lot of things, but they don't really focus on the key strategic initiatives to try to get something done. So, a lot of these things cause problems, but I think those are some that I would share that I hear all the time.
Okay. And Keith, what do you see out there as a hindrance to the network team being able to focus on application performance?
Lack of visibility has been the big one. So over the years, we've collected different types of information, but hasn't really given us the true view that we need to analyze applications in depth. And so with the advancements over the last couple of years, such as Cisco's AVC that's in the routers for application visibility, and then, of course, our line of probes like LiveWire that can do packet capture for further analysis, has really brought the applications to the forefront for being able to really get detailed in where the problems lie within the critical applications that customers use today.
Got it. Excellent. So, I want to move on to talking about some successes, right? So what we've seen is customers have been able to achieve, and specifically this is with live action solutions. And in this case that's on the screen, we're looking at the impact that a global pharmaceutical company had and how they were able to improve not only visibility of their application performance, but but in part because of that, they were able to significantly reduce their MTTR and resolving application issues. And so I want to, again, Mike, Keith, what are some of the other successes that you've seen while working with customers, or what, how would you measure or describe success, or how would the customer describe that success?
Yeah. So, Chris, and this one, it's a lot about. I guess I would. One of the guys from Cisco, a former Cisco person that I know, kind of shared something, and he described it as a kind of a hover and swoop type model, where live action is a big data solution. We do collect a lot of information about the network. And, as you hover or as you look at all of the data and you want to swoop down and find those critical points, the diamond in the rough kind of scenario, that's something that we do. So Keith just mentioned the live wire and the use of OmniPeak. And having the packet capture ability and the feed to LiveNX with the IP fix export, that's great. But also the expert analysis is something that you can get to the answers fast, right? You need to get to the answers. So I think that is something that is very important. I think when you look at like a GUI front end in our engineering console, when you look, and you'll see it later, but you'll see these colorful lines and the devices, and it's that mental model of the network that you can recognize. You recognize because that's your network and that's how you understand it to be. But the difference between then and now is that the network is breathing, it's alive, it's living. There's things that are changing all the time, and the dynamic nature of the network is being revealed through the really the visual analytics of live action. I think that's really the power. So, to Keith's point, what's the big thing now? It's visibility, but not visibility in the sense that, here's some, some charts and this and that, and you're done with it, but visibility that you can see either specific transactions, or you can see specific flows, or you can see the entire application throughout the network. You can see that using our Flex Search and display filters with ease, and everyone can see it. And it doesn't take a large amount of time to show you exactly what's going on. So that visibility and that hovering and that swooping to get to the answer fast is critical, so you don't cause delays in other parts of the business. So.
Okay, and Keith, what kind of successes have you seen out there?
Several actually, and I just had one with one of the largest insurance companies that is one of our customers, and it oriented around the ability of being able to detect truly what was wrong in the application. This issue had went on for 6 or 7 months with the customer, and they really just kept pointing fingers at each other, blaming the network or blaming the application, but really didn't have visibility and to be able to see truly what's happening within the application as it made queries either to the network or to a database. And so after installing our LiveWire, it was literally within 15 minutes that we detected the problem that they have actually pushed around for 6 months within their company. And it was actually a query out to the network with a URL that was taking a long time to respond. The application itself performed well, but it did make a URL query for some information, and that query is what was actually causing the delay, and we were able to point that out very easily. And now, of course, with the problem rectified, performance has went up dramatically with the users of that application, instead of waiting this 10 to 40 seconds before the next step that they could implement. So, this was just one just recently that we've seen that really had impact on a significant amount of users, and especially with them working from home.
Got it. Terrific. So with that, and working from the theory of seeing is believing, Keith, I want to transition to you and give you the ball, so to speak, so that you can do a demo for us of LiveNX in action, solving an application performance issue.
Okay.
1 second. So while Keith is getting set up, I want to make sure, if anybody has any questions from the audience, please submit those in the Q&A panel, and we'll address them as they come in or during a Q&A session at the end of the demo.
Okay, hopefully everybody can see my screen. I'm not familiar, I'm not sure how many people are familiar with the LiveNX, so we're going to take just a minute to take a look at our platform. And a lot of times platforms are designed for one set of users, a NOC but not the engineer, or an engineer maybe and not the NOC center. We happen to have two unique interfaces. We have an engineering interface that's used to configure quality of service, monitoring performance, application, throughput, routing, IPSLA, LAN, and quality of service is all through the engineering menu. And we also have a web-based interface for the NOC Center that has overviews and dashboards and drill downs and alerts that can be notified. So we have two distinct interfaces, and we're going to look at the engineering interface first for a second. And as you can see, the circles represent devices from within LiveNX. So I'm from Birmingham, and we can see the actual device, and the circle represents the device, and the smaller circles are the interfaces for that one device. So as we add those through a self-discovery mechanism, we can quickly see that amber indicates a problem, and green indicates that the device is performing normally. We alert ahead of time, so we're a very proactive tool to be able to look at issues such as network delay that we've been discussing today, and media loss and retransmission. So using what's in the router and switch today, we get worthwhile information that is sent to you through notification to be very proactive. Now, what is unique about us is that we can actually track the traffic that's going through the network in an end-to-end manner. So we can actually see those conversations and be able to pinpoint which hop that the problem actually occurred by using either packet capture technology or the technology that's built into the device today. So, this is an MPLS network coming back to a data center, and they actually complained about an application issue that is happening on the network right now. So I want to show you that we use flow and packet capture, but this is built into the Cisco routers today, that they have the ability of doing what is called application visibility and control. And if you notice at the top of the screen, here's the application for Citrix, and look to the right at the columns of information we're collecting with this flow. AD is application delay. ND is network delay. CND is client, and SND is server. So very quickly they said Citrix was slow and it's a network problem. Well, no, it's not. It's actually an application delay issue, and we can see that very, very easily. Also, if you look at the other applications, here's one as well that's actually an application that's experiencing problems, and here is Outlook Web Service, which is very important, that's experiencing issues. I can actually go down and drill to a flow path analysis. So let's follow this application through the network and see how it's performing. So we're gathering statistics and following the path, and look, here it is through the network, and look, Seattle is experiencing network delay very high. So we pinpointed where in the network this application is struggling. If I double click, I simply now launch a report, and as Mike mentioned earlier, look at the top of the screen, the detailed filter that we've built. For those of you who have used OmniPeak or used Wireshark, they both work very similar in how we can build a descript command search string. And look, here we are with Outlook Web Service, and we can see that there is a big spike in traffic that has occurred from Outlook that could actually possibly be the issue of why we were having problems. This is Seattle where the issue is occurring. I'm going to remove the filter as an example and just execute the report. And let's take a look at all the traffic that's going through. And wow, look at this. Look at how we were running traffic in Seattle, and then wham, at 12:25 when the incident occurred and we received the alert and the alarm, that traffic went to nothing. So we can see that we took a hit in Seattle, and then of course the traffic spiked up afterwards after we recovered. So being able to chase it to analysis, even using flow, is very easily done. Now these statistics that we look at are parameters that we see for application delay and network delay, etc. Look how we get this information. This is from Cisco, and once again, we're using their application visibility and control. And if you notice the beginning of a typical conversation for TCP, sync ACK gives us client and send response time metrics. And then the flow of the application gives us network delay, application delay, response times, transaction times. And as you can see, the metrics are easily calculated by using the router and switch that is actually inside the device today. So, this is not having to add any information at all from an external probe or a tap or a span port so far. Everything I'm showing you is coming from the actual device, the network device. So this is kind of the engineering view and how we can actually analyze and drill down. But for our NOC engineers or the web interface, this is like our overview of being able to see the sites, devices, and interfaces. And notice Los Angeles is red. So I can click on Los Angeles and we can drill down. Now Los Angeles may be one building and one switch, or it could be 3 buildings and 4 routers and 30 switches, and we combine all that information together into one view. We see we do have alerts and the applications, the interfaces, devices, and the percent of uptime. I'm going to click on the WAN applications, and we will filter the WAN applications and take a look. And if we see, we can actually see the applications, and the red dots indicate the problems: SSL, voice over IP, etc. So instantly I can see there's network delay from SSL, and I can actually click and drill down. And using that AVC technology again that's in the routers and switches, see, here we are. It's 166 milliseconds for network delay. Here's application delay at 22 milliseconds, 50 retransmissions, the conversations that are happening with SSL, and on the right, the flow path coming off the network into Los Angeles to be able to look at those SSL conversations on the right-hand side. And see, if I select them, we can clearly see there's network delay and application delay. If I select network delay, look, I show all the SSL conversations that were going through the network at that time, and we can be able to see that information very, very easily. So the ability of being able to see multiple flows now and see the ones in red are the ones that are having network delay, and we can actually see that and be able to determine who in the network is having individual problems with application performance. So this is using the ability of being able to use technology such as NVAR being enabled and application visibility and control to be able to drill down and look at problems that occur in the network as well. So any application can really be analyzed and seen very easily through our dashboard or through our engineering interface. So, I can go to home as an example here with the dashboard, and each of you that were on the call, if if you had LiveNX, you would have your own custom dashboard. So with all the information you want to have, alerts and which applications are performing as well. And notice in the center of the screen, there's 6 WAN applications that are giving issues. So I'll select them, and I showed you an example with Microsoft Office or Office 365 and with SSL. But, you know, applications are applications, whether they're, you know, a SQL Server or voice or video. And see, I can look at these applications that are in trouble. Let's just select voice over IP because it's an application too, right? And so we can drill down from within LiveNX and instantly display all the actual problems, whether this was voice over IP or Office 365 or, you know, eBay as an example, and then we will show the application performance. In this case, we're looking at jitter and the conversations, the class markings, and as we can see, as we drill in, we can see the red arrows indicate all the problems. Like the Los Angeles, you see, there's actually jitter and packet loss occurring to Los Angeles right now with voice. So me as a NOC engineer, I could select Los Angeles, and now on the left-hand side, see, we'll drill down to Los Angeles and take a look at the problem. And on the left, look, I'm telling you everything you need about this application. Remember, if it was voice over IP or Exchange, etc., the application performance metrics, and then the conversations, class markings, application performance by interface, jitter and loss as well. And on the right, remember the red arrows that we were looking at? I can select them and go, oh, I want to see who has packet loss right now in New York. So then I can actually filter down as we did before and see now I can do a path view and see now as a NOC engineer, you know, I need to be able to report to someone that we've got a voice problem occurring in the network between the data center and the Los Angeles. And remember, the red arrow indicated the packet loss of 11%, but it's only coming out of the MPLS cloud. From the data center forward, life looks good. Now, we mentioned about packet capture earlier as one of our methods. So we have a series of probes that can be installed that exports that AVC flow. So we have that very good flow collection of using basic flow, MediaNet, Perfmon, and AVC. So we have the ability of being able to capture that information as well. But here's the instance I want to show you. In Los Angeles, I do have the LiveWire installed, and at the upper left, we're looking at one distinct conversation. I can select the peak button and see I instantly launch packet capture. So a filter has been set for this conversation, regardless of what it is, you know, like I said, voice over IP or WebEx, and we can click start, and then now I can drill down, and then I can actually see that traffic. So I can go to web and the packets, and here is that one discrete conversation, whether it was Office 365 or SSL, and see with our event summary, we detect now at packet level that the jitter and loss we detected with flow is now causing late arrival, out of sequence, jitter detected, packet loss. So we can have that capability of being able to drill down and say, show me that problem, and see we can actually go to the details at packet level. So using OmniPeak as well, you have it and the engineering client, and see at the bottom of the screen, here are the symptoms and diagnosis that we're seeing on the network, and their SQL Server response time. You see in blue is being highlighted where the actual slow server is. So I'll select one of the conversations as an example, and go to Flow Visualizer, and we'll actually display the flow of the packets and see the big green block indicates a delay, and we can see SQL Slow server response time, and see the time. Now, what's nice is that here is the problem, but look, if I go to payload, this is the payload for that actual command. So we can actually see what command was going to the database that caused the slow response. So a lot of customers need to go to this level. We have that capability as well. Just one last thing I'd like to show is, this is my network, and we're running the WebEx right now. And see, I'm looking at application delay, network delay, client and server delay. This is real in real time of me having the LiveWire probe installed between my router and the cable network to be able to see that traffic as well. And, being able to say that I can have the same drill down. You see, here are my alerts, and see, SE Demo 2 is my live action server I'm communicating to, and we're having delay across the network. Once again, I can select peak right now, and I can click start and see at the top of the screen, I'm capturing that traffic to troubleshoot this application problem, and see, here are the issues that we're having right now at the packet level. So once again, the capability of being able to drill down to anything, like here was the non-responsive server that I had, I can drill down to that problem and see. So if there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them based off some of the technology that I've shown so far.
Yeah, Keith, so you touched upon the LiveWire and live capture devices. There was a question about what about a Juniper environment versus a Cisco environment? And I'm wondering if you'd comment again on how those devices provide the type of telemetry data that we might get from a Cisco environment.
Well, the Juniper devices do send flow, so we can collect standard net flow to get information on through the network. That flow path information that I was showing earlier in the network, I can do that with Juniper devices. So these circles could be Juniper devices, and I could easily go up and say, I want to look at just voice traffic going through the network for analysis, and I could filter out that traffic and be able to process it and show it very easily like I'm doing right now. So we have that capability. What he doesn't have with Juniper is this AVC flow that does the application performance or the voice and video, and that's where the probe comes into play. So as you can see in my network, like in Los Angeles, I have a live wire that has been tapped into the network to be able to capture that traffic and report back with that advanced flow that detects application issues and does the packet analysis. Or since this is an MPLS environment, I've got just a large live wire in the data center, and everything going through my MPLS router into the data center is now being captured for analysis, and the ability of being able to look at that traffic as well is there, that I can actually go out and monitor AVC, MediaNet, or basic flow and look at those application performance metrics very easily. So the LiveWire can provide this in-depth information for you, even though you just have Juniper devices. Just place me in the path, and now you've got that excellent application performance using my LiveWire device.
Terrific. Thanks, Keith. And there's another question about how deep can we drill down to, as in, can we drill down to the user level?
Well, we when we say the user level, I can look at an individual conversation. So I can set a filter and look at anyone going through the network from an individual standpoint. So I could go back and reset, and at the upper left corner, you see I could go flow.ip equal, and I want to look at Bob in Seattle that was having issues. See, I could just drill down, and instantly now we're going to set a filter just to look at Bob. If you want to take it one step further, that actually we integrate with like Cisco ICE, PX Grid, and DNA Center, that I can resolve an IP address to the user name. So I could actually say Keith Parsons, and here is his IP address, and of course resolve to DNS. Chris.
Thanks, Keith. And so let me ask you this. There's another question about, I guess, the deployment model of LiveNX. Can you talk about how it deploys on-prem or where it may be in terms of the cloud, et cetera? What's the architecture of the product like?
Well, it is, LiveNX is typically an OVA or an appliance, or it can run in the cloud. So we deploy typically with most of our customers an OVA in their environment, and then it acts as a collector and also the management engine to run LiveNX. So the OVA or the LiveNX server then will simply go out and discover the devices via SNMP, add those devices through a quick mechanism, and then we begin to poll the devices, and we will even configure NetFlow. So very unique to us is our ability to push out a NetFlow template to a device that I'm adding, and I don't have to worry about that configuration. And of course, I can remove it if you would like for me to as well. So it's a straightforward process of us just being either a standalone server or an OVA, or you can run me in the cloud as well. And we didn't cover it today. It's going to be another topic, but we also do cloud analysis and analysis inside VM ESXi environments as well.
Got it. Thanks, Keith. So let's see. There's a question about adding routers to LiveNX, and the question is, I don't see layer 3 switches or any core switches. Do you recommend to add switches into the same dashboard?
Well, if I'm running policies on those devices, then I certainly do, want to add that device. So here's a 3850 that we've got right here that's been added, and so since that switch is pretty advanced, we would want to do flow on it and gather flow as well. For customers that have that visibility, I can look at the policies and look at the traffic that's flowing through and drill down and look at the interfaces as well. So you see, I can see all the traffic flowing through by type, or I can go to the LAN tab and see the blue lines represent the VLAN number 1. So you see I can select multiple VLANs. So you see I can instantly see this is VLAN 1. And look, they're trying to get voice to run on this interface. Well, it's never going to run because it's not on the voice VLAN. And of course, with layer 3 switches, we can drill down and look at bandwidth interface up and down. I can even go command line and show you the command line and the show policy map of each interface, and layer 2 QoS drops. So if there's layer 2 QoS drops occurring, we can see those. And then also, I can see layer 3 policies if they're applied, or I can create a policy and deploy it as well. So yep, switches are important to us, layer 3, and we support them very well.
Got it. Terrific. So there's a question, instead of, I guess it's about going in the other direction, right? Instead of drilling down into the root cause, what about higher level reports and roll-up reports that do stats over time and thresholds crossed, et cetera?
Yes.
Mike suggested we switch over to the operations UI.
Yeah, the web interface would certainly provide that for you, being able to have roll-up and reports. As you can see, my dashboard is doing top sites by WAN utilization, by bandwidth and interfaces, and also in the dashboard is the ability of being able to do stories, such as an example, I'm doing WAN capacity planning. When we add the devices, we learn the actual IP addresses, which circuits are WAN, which are LAN, etc. So now I can do WAN capacity planning automatically for you and be able to look at these circuits over a period of time and be able to show you which ones are changing in a month-to-month basis. So I do have, reports and dashboards and the ability of being able to deliver any of this information in a view that can be scheduled, put into a widget, or scheduled in a report, because we have over 125 different reports that can be generated. So I can do everything from utilization to bandwidth to errors to application reports as well. And these reports can be scheduled over time. So I can keep a whole array of reports for days, months, years to be able to go back in time and look at application reports or user reports or bandwidth and also alerting as well. So built into the platform is a complete alerting mechanism that you're seeing now as well. So you're being notified about these problems proactively, and once again, I can drill down straight to a device report, to a conversation report, or to the packet launch as well. But back in the background, there is, a whole series of reports that are running to be able to meet your needs, from being able to deliver management level reports on percentage of uptime on a circuit or a group or an office or a site, all the way down to detailed audit reports of application performance by user, as an example.
Got it. And there was a follow-on question about being able to control access to those reports and dependent upon role or permissions.
Yes, it is permission-based. So within the platform, we do role-based access, and I can limit what access you have to reports, devices. So it does have role-based access, and we also have a single sign-on as well as other secure methods are supported.
Got it. Terrific. So we're obviously a couple minutes past the hour, so I think this is a good time to wrap up. So Keith, I'm going to take the presenter's role back.
Okay.
And do a couple of final steps. Definitely appreciate the in-depth demo. Thank you very much. So let's see. I'm going to switch to this slide. Can everybody see? Keith, can you see what's my slide presentation here about how we can help?
No, it says we'll be starting soon.
Give me 1 second. Got to work on the interface here. How about now?
Yeah, you're good, Chris.
Terrific. Thanks, Mike. So obviously the question is, how can we help? We're definitely here and available to interact with you on multiple levels to either get a sense of, let's do a deep dive into your application performance, and visibility into that performance on your network. These links for these particular ways that we can interact, these are what were in the first initial welcome message that you received when you joined this webinar. But you can also visit the Live Action website to access them as well. We can also do a one-on-one demo of LiveNX if there was a topic that we didn't cover in detail. Certainly you can reach out to us and we can schedule that meeting with you. There's also a 14-day fully functioning trial of LiveNX available on the Live Action website. So if you want to try the solution within your own environment, you're more than happy to do that as well. So again, I want to thank everyone for being with us today. And obviously, we all want you to stay safe out there. And I want to thank our presenters and our panelists today. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Monique, for joining us today. And again, everyone, thank you for being with us. And this will conclude our presentation for today. Thank you, everyone.